Yeah. Gotta aim for the top like, hold up. Yeah, I can never doubt myself, I know better. All of you critics be acting like you know better. Blowing the smoke, but I know when the dust settles that I'm in my element. It's evident that there's levels to the game. All of those dark nights I got them, breaking my back to make it out, got me feeling like pain. I ain't never need your help, I know you wishing me well. A penny for your thoughts, but seeing no change. I snap for the sun like Diddy. The riches got a mad ass son, I'm like Billy. I ain't never switch up, whole team with me. Putting on for my city like OAGs. Set the pace as long as you finish. Consumers find a way inside your business. Babble if they try to dabble in it and they hate the fact that they may have to witness. You tryna aim for the top like this and you're in your element with a fire like this. And they hoping you fall and they praying you miss. But it's all in the risk, I got you with the switch you know.
Well, it is an exciting one on Spiro Avenue tonight. You know, I am famously bringing you dignitaries left and right. Just, 10 days ago, we brought you the Michigan State quarterback of the future. And now tonight we present the Michigan State quarterback of the present, a legend already, a legend that is growing up there in East Lansing. It is a sparkling, dazzling, bedazzled Spiro Avenue debut for him. He is the current starting quarterback for Michigan State University, the high school teammate of Jaden Reed. Payton Thorne, welcome to the Spiro Avenue Show.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the the kind introduction. That was a cool video you guys had there. That was fun to watch.
Hey, all glory to Ben in the back, man. He does all the hard work. I just talk. People are like, "Oh, what a fantastic production!" It's like I just point to the Oz man in the back. So it's great to have you. I know you got like a workout at 4 a.m. or something back home, so I'm going to try to keep it tight. We got a lot to get to, so I'm going to get right into it. I want to get into your sort of ascent into the role. So you're the quarterback of Michigan State right now. You've been for a while now at this point, but it was a little bit rocky, no pun intended, for you at first. We didn't know kind of whether you were going to be the starter, what was going to happen. Some people were saying you might transfer. So we're sitting here in 2022. I want to sort of hop in the time machine, get into 2020. So we all remember you now as the starter, and those are the fond memories. Looking back, Rocky Lombardi opens 2020 as the starter. No one really knew much about you. We read Colton Pouncey's great piece in The Athletic saying that you were kind of the next guy and Drew Brees 2.0 and all that stuff, but no one had really seen you play. It was all kind of hearsay. Rocky opens the season, and, you know, look, Rocky took down Michigan in one of the most satisfying Michigan wins ever, so he's good with me forever. But the offense certainly sputtered. It was a little bit underwhelming. I'm curious to take me into the mind of Payton Thorne, because you don't see extended action in 2020 until the fourth game of that year. You finally take over primary quarterback duties in like the last third of that shortened season. As soon as you got out there, the upgrade at quarterback was pretty clear. Was that frustrating for you? Did you know on the sidelines, like, look, I can do better than we're doing right now? Can you kind of take me into your mind there?
Yeah, it was an interesting year. Obviously, you throw COVID in there, and then, you know, we were home for like 4 months or something. We got sent home from school, no spring ball, interesting fall camp. The season's canceled. Then all of a sudden it's back on. So we were all over the place that year. And so it was up and down for everybody. And then for me, obviously, you know, I wanted to win the job that year, did not. And, you know, through that whole year, it was tough to, you know, kind of battle that every day of not being the guy, you know, and try to just come in every day and practice and prepare like I was going to play, you know. And then those first, you know, 3-4 games where I didn't play, it was tough because you're thinking, hey, I'm going to get in there at some point. It's just going to happen. And it didn't. But, you know, by the end of the season, it did. And then I was able to start, you know, the Penn State game. And that feels like forever ago now that I'm talking about it.
It feels like 100 years ago.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a tough year. But everything happens for a reason. I really believe that. And, you know, through the whole process, I believed that, you know, God was at work, and, you know, there was a reason that I was, you know, not playing that year. And, you know, I'm okay with that looking back on it now. Obviously, during that time, I wish I was playing, but, you know, like I said, everything happens for a reason, and I'm excited about everything that happened last year and what we're about to do this upcoming year.
I'm glad that you're measured, because Michigan State fans, and I include myself among them, are not. Because when we saw you finally get in, because everyone is saying, God, how bad is Payton Thorne and, you know, Theo Day that, like, he can't. I mean, again, I'm not trying to be mean to Rocky, but it was not working. And we had heard really good things about you, so it's like, what's the coaching staff doing? So we see you get in there, tough spots. I mean, you're playing Ohio State, Penn State. Like, you're not playing the cupcake part of the schedule. And you played pretty well, especially for a guy with no experience. I mean, we grabbed a couple of the reactions, one of which is mine, but we'll start with Andy Isaac, famous Twitter presence, frequent guest of the show at this point. So a little bit harsh on the coaching staff from Andy. But we're seeing you light it up in December, and Isaac comes on and says it's an indictment of this coaching staff that Thorne hasn't played over Lombardi. And then you flip to mine. I was a little more kind of light-hearted about it. Quote, I know COVID has been bad, but has anything in 2020 been worse than Rocky Lombardi starting over Payton Thorne? So, I mean, hyperbolic, obviously, but that was the attitude of the fan base when we saw you get in there. So when you get in there and actually play, is there some element of you that's like I should have been in here week one, or what's going through your head? There's no like kind of chip on the shoulder a little bit there?
I mean, there's a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, but it's not really like towards my coaches or anything like that. You know, I really love our coaches. You know, I love Coach Johnson. I love Coach Tuck. I love playing for both of them. And, you know, there's just a chip on my shoulder to prove, you know, myself to not just my teammates and my coaches, but also to myself that I belong. And I believe that I belong from the start. And to go out and play, although we didn't win, you know, the games that I played in 2020, you know, I felt like I was able to show a little bit of something to my teammates that they could believe in for this past year. And you know, but really there was no like you know, trying to get back at anybody. It wasn't like trying to, you know, show my coaches that they were wrong or anything like that. It was just me trying to go out there and execute and, you know, run our offense and do what I've been coached to do. And, you know, sometimes we did that and other times, you know, we didn't do that during that season. But, you know, that was kind of my mindset.
I defended the coaching staff on my show at the time when we were sort of unpacking it because the logic, it's easy to look back now. Rocky Lombardi had 2 years on you in the program, I think.
Yep.
At least, like maybe 3. Multiple years experience on you, and you mentioned the COVID weird year.
Right.
Mel Tucker's been there for like 15 minutes. I kind of get defaulting to the guy that's been here for twice as long as you have and kind of letting you work through that. So that's like in their defense, I think that's, you know, kind of fair to say. Yeah, obviously you seized the role. I think for your lack of experience in the roster and what it was, performed very well, especially going against the opponents that you did. And you go into the offseason. I have to think for at least 5 minutes, you thought, like, okay, I'm the guy now. Like, Rocky ends up transferring. It comes out that he's going to Northern Illinois. So for at least a day, you had to think, like, this is my spot. Writing's on the wall. It's Payton Thorne's job. Rocky sees it. Everybody sees it. And then we get the news that Anthony Russo is transferring in, 6-year senior out of Temple. And this is not a guy that would come here if it was just the job is Payton Thorne's. Everybody knows he's coming here to at least compete, if not just have it handed to him. What's going through your mind when you see the news Anthony Russo transferring to Michigan State? How did you hear about it? Do you remember? And what's going through your mind then?
I do remember. I was. It was the week after Penn State. We had just came in from practice. We were getting ready for Maryland for the second time we were playing Maryland, where we didn't even play them again. So, I came in from practice. You know, I was sitting in my locker, turned my phone on, and that was one of the first things I saw. And you know, it really wasn't a shock to me. I was surprised that it happened that fast. I didn't know who we were going to get, but I did assume that we were going to bring somebody in. You know, so that didn't surprise me. But yeah, when I was named the starter against Penn State, there was like a day or two. I was like, okay, here we go. You know, now it's time. And then, you know, I saw that news, but I really didn't think too much of it. I just thought it was competition coming in, and you know, I'd never thought for a second about leaving myself. And, you know, the transfer portal did not interest me at all at that time. You know, I was ready to compete, and I was excited to compete. And I remember talking to my dad about that. And, you know, unfortunately, we didn't get to play against Maryland that week. I was looking forward to that game. But, you know, obviously everything worked out, and the whole offseason was what it was.
I know, you know, the nature of the program, and having had, you know, Warren McCree here, Darian Harris on the show prior, it is, you know, as competitive as Mel Tucker says. It's compete to stay or whatever.
Compete to play, compete to stay.
Yeah, there you go. We got it. So they're very open about that. But is there some like I don't know if you've seen Draft Day when like they're trading for the first overall pick and they're going to take Bo Callahan, and the Brian Drew, the current quarterback's like pissed off, like they're going to replace me, and the strength coach is in the locker room like, it's okay, man, like beat him out, get in there. Did that happen for you at Michigan State? Was there like a strength coach or Jay Johnson pull you aside like, hey man, like chin up when that news came out, or was there just no acknowledgement at all?
Not really. There wasn't anything like that. I know I had, I know there were certain people that were pulling for me in the program, and some of those people told me, and then other those people told me, way later. But there was nothing really like that. I remember I met with Coach Johnson right before I left for kind of the winter. So I just kind of met with them right before we left, for January a little bit. And I just asked him, I said, was anybody promised anything? And is it truly going to be a competition? He said, absolutely, it's going to be a competition. So I said, okay, well, that's all I wanted to know. And, if that's the case, which obviously, it was, and it is for every position, in our program. And, Coach Tucker came back this offseason, and when he was talking to the whole team, our first team meeting this year, he said, nobody's guaranteed anything. And that's how it should be. If you're the best player, you should play, no matter what the guy before you did or has done. If you're better than he is, then you should play. And so he made that clear. And, he's proven that by the decision that he's made to play some guys over another.
I'm probably the least reliably informed Michigan State person. I'll explain. I have 30 people that I know close to the program or purport to be close to the program. Some actually are, some aren't. And I had a split camp of like half the people were saying it's going to be Thorne, not who they were rooting for, just this is who the program is going to name. Yep. And the other half were Russo. Take me through the competition. You mentioned the competition. It was like 5 minutes before the game or 10 minutes before the game. We had no idea. I mean, we didn't. Was it that neck and neck the whole way? Someone whisper in your ear 2 weeks before that first game against Northwestern. How did that actually play out?
Yeah, it was a close competition in terms of the numbers and everything. Obviously they keep track of every statistic throughout practice, through fall camp, through spring ball, and the stats were close, and it felt like forever before I found out. I think I found out only like 9 days before the game, which obviously is not much time for the usual. In terms of getting ready for your first game of the year. And so it felt like forever for me, but when I finally got the news, obviously I was excited, but then it was quickly, turned my focus to our 12-game season, 13-game season we had ahead of us. But yeah, the competition was close, and, it was very mentally, it came with a lot of mental strain to show up every day and to, keep the same focus and make sure that you're not getting down or upset about something or some little thing. You got to show up every day and be consistent. So it was a tough and interesting year, but obviously it made me a lot better as a player and as a person, honestly.
It's a shame either one of you guys had to lose that. Russo's a great guy. He famously attended our event in this past July. We had the Jalen Watts Jackson painting unveiling, and we had a couple of your teammates, Elijah Collins and Connor Hayward, and he came, and I had invited – I know I invited you. I can't remember if you even responded, but you and Jaden Reed. And Jaden was like, actually, no, Peyton's throwing passes to me that weekend or something,
really?
Like in Illinois. You guys were doing something together?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
You were training together or something?
I think that must have been when we were back, and actually Ken came back with us too. And,
he was there.
He spent the week at my house, and they stayed a couple nights at Bird's house. Bird is Jaden. I call him Bird. At his house, and we were doing some stuff there, so that must have been it.
We just got a kick out of that because I must have had 5 people tell me the joke that night. Like, Russo was not, even though he's legal age, he wasn't drinking. He was like the nicest guy. He was just here having fun. And, but people were like, "Oh, Russo's here at the party, and Payton Thorne's throwing passes to Jaden Reed." Like it's like that was like the early insight that Payton Thorne was going to win the job. But I mean, obviously not. But that competition seemed to be genuinely neck and neck the whole way through. I got to think it's nice for you now. You go through the battle in 2020, like trying to get in front of Rocky. You finally get there, and then the transfer comes in. Now you're back in the battle. You're not battling now. Like you got to be the guy. How is that different for you mentally going into the year where I can just focus. Like, I don't have to look over my shoulder. I don't have to wonder what, the backup quarterback's numbers are in practice. Like, you're the guy. How has that changed your mindset?
Yeah, obviously it's nice to not have year 3 of a competition in the offseason. That was a long 2 years. But, I remember something that Tom Brady said, and obviously Tom Brady didn't go to the right university, but Tom Brady said later in his career that he is still competing every day, and he still has to prove himself every day to his teammates and his coaches, and that's the greatest quarterback of all time. He's got nothing to prove. And he shows up every day and feels like he has something to prove. And, I think that if you're not showing up every day trying to prove something, that either you still got it or that you're getting better, which in my case I want to be getting better, then you've lost it. So there's still plenty of competition for me, trying to beat our defense more than we usually do or something like that. But the biggest difference for me this year, this offseason, is that I have time now with our receivers where I can, say, hey, we're meeting, and there's no like second guessing in their mind, like, oh well, he might not even be the quarterback. It's okay. We know this guy. He played last year. We've been through a season with him. Now, okay, I have a little bit of trust with him, and I believe that meeting and going over this stuff and throwing a little bit extra is actually something that I should do because this guy is probably going to be playing, and the relationship with the coaches is different now too. After last season and talking to Coach Johnson, and then going over our offense for fine tuning some things and putting some things in, taking some things out, because same thing, we're always trying to get better as an offense collectively, and obviously we got different pieces this year, so it's going to be different, and being able to work with him and collaborate with him and hear what he wants to see from me and what he wants me to work on with the other guys and stuff like that. So I'd say that's the biggest difference between the last 2 years and this offseason so far.
As long as the flea flickers stay in the playbook, those can't leave. I want to see, like,
Absolutely.
If anything, ramp up the flea flickers,
right.
actually, if we can. Yeah, but let Jay know we got to call more, if anything.
Right.
Yeah, we had a pretty interesting text thread going on a couple of weeks ago, a couple of my Michigan State buddies, and one of them said, if Payton Thorne just statistically repeats the exact same, like just hypothetically, what he did in 2021 and 2022, just copy, paste the stats, then goes to the NFL, I know you have more eligibility than that, but let's say that's what happens. He said if that happens, Payton Thorne's the best quarterback in Michigan State football history. 3 other people on the thread, me being one of them, couldn't disagree. It was pretty much unanimous. That's just if you stay one more year. You have multiple years you could stay. Have you kind of considered your legacy here at all? Because you had a pretty awesome year last year. It's a program that's had some pretty good quarterbacks come through, Cook and Cousins in recent vintage. Like, do you think about that, or is that more of a fan weird text message thread thing?
I'd be lying if I said it didn't cross my mind sometimes. But to be even said in the same breath as those guys, Kirk Cousins, Connor Cook, and the thing to be able to look back and see the things that they did, it's pretty cool, and I'm very fortunate and blessed to be able to even be in that sentence with those guys. Obviously, they've done some great things here, but there's a lot more that I would have to do to be able to be in the same category as those guys, and I'm still young, and I've only got 1 year under my belt, so I feel like there's a lot more to be done before that is realistic, but. The first time that I ever even realized it was my dad. It was probably like week 10 or something, or week 11, and my dad kind of texted me and said, "Hey, you're actually kind of close to the touchdown record." And I was like, "Geez, I had no idea. I'd never even looked at. I didn't even know what the record was for single season touchdowns." The one record I did, remember looking up was the wins record with Connor Cook, and I think he's got like 35, something like that, 34, 35.
Yeah, I mean that was like 12, 13, or
so
14 or whatever it was.
I remember my freshman year I saw that one, and that was one that always stuck. And but yeah, my dad kind of texted me one day, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. That'd be pretty cool. And so at the end of the season, when I saw that, I was able to set that record. That was pretty cool to be able to be right there with, Cousins and those guys, Drew Stanton, all those guys, and they're in our quarterback room. Their pictures are right there, so. You see them every day, and to see the careers that those guys have had and what they did here, it's pretty cool. And it's something I strive to be able to be a part of that group of guys.
Yeah, I mean, the year you had is as good as any year statistically. It's just, those guys had at least 2 of those years. So that's, really the only difference is time.
Yep.
Well, is there like a sort of line in the sand with you in your head, maybe conversations with your dad, Jeff? If I throw 29 touchdowns, 5 picks, and I'm getting notice that I'm a second-round draft grade, like is there some line where you're like, okay, this is my last year. If I hit XYZ goals or numbers or this feedback from the NFL, is there something that's kind of there for you in your mind in terms of that?
Not really. I actually, I was talking to Coach Johnson the other day, and my focus isn't really the NFL right now. Obviously, you do want to know what they think, and I like to look at myself from that perspective of what I need to improve on, technique wise, and all that stuff. And but I'm more focused on us right now and winning here than the NFL, because I really believe that if we win here and we do the things that we've set out to do, then the rest of it will take care of itself. And my dad has always told me that in high school, that the college stuff will come if you win. People watch teams that win. Not a lot of eyes are on teams that lose. And so I believe that if we win and we're a really high-powered offense and we score a lot of points this year, then that'll all take care of itself. So there's no like stat line that I'm got my eyes on or anything like that. And I also think that when guys do that, they often end up coming up way short because their focus is on the wrong stuff. And after week 2, they're concerned they don't have enough touchdowns yet and stuff like that. And they start pressing and stuff like that. So I'm focused on just winning games for us and trying to have our offense as good as we can possibly be. And I think that, like I said, the rest of it will take care of itself.
So let's have a little bit of fun. I'm going to transition to your rival down the road, University of Michigan. I want you to be very careful because I don't want you to get in trouble here. I don't want you to say anything that'll get you in trouble, but I do want to talk about it honestly. I want to start here. A few years back, a retired Big Ten official, he had 2 decades of experience in the Big Ten, also in the NFL a little bit too, but 20 years Big Ten official, came out and said the Michigan State rivalry with Michigan was the most intense he had seen, more so than Ohio State. This was Bill Lemonier's quote, again, a 20-year Big Ten veteran official. With Michigan and Ohio State, it would be intense for the first few possessions and then settle in. But Michigan and Michigan State, it was like that from start to finish. That rivalry has always stood out to me. The OSU U of M game was great, but the Michigan-Michigan State game, that was 60 full minutes of intensity. You got it from the players, the coaches, the fans. The whole package was there for 3.5 hours. It's like down south, Auburn versus Alabama. That in-state rivalry is really something. Again, Bill Lemonier, 20-year veteran official in the Big Ten, who had officiated, I believe it was 6 Michigan-Ohio State games and 4 or 5 in-state Michigan-Michigan State games. So not a small sample size. He saw a lot about both. I've always argued, I don't care what anybody says, Michigan fans that I have them on the show, they think I'm nuts. I think that we are their bigger rival. I go to work with these people. I talk to these people every day. Yep. They don't talk about Ohio State. They talk about us. Yep. And we talk about them. We're obsessed with each other. You were actually on the field in a prominent role in this game. I know it's different, but tell me, how is it different? Are guys talking to you, trash talking you on the field? Is it as intense as everyone seems to say it is? Darian Harris said it's completely different from any other game. What was Payton Thorne's experience, just in terms of the chattiness, the intensity of it?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that statement. It is intense, and it doesn't stop at any point in the game, especially this past game, because of how close the game was and everything that happened throughout that game. But there's a certain dislike on both sides for each other, and oftentimes they like to say that they don't care about us or what we do, which is funny. But we really don't like them, and nobody's shy about that, and they don't like us either. And so, with a lot of rivalries, there's respect on both sides, and there's like a certain, okay, we respect each other. But I've heard a lot of people say that, that's not the case in this rivalry. And, from what I've seen, I would agree. And, it really is intense. And this past year was, even to add on to the rivalry, there was College Game Day was there. Big Noon Kickoff was there, and it was a huge game, top 10 matchup, And I think we were both undefeated. I'm pretty sure. And
You were, yeah.
so huge game this year, and so it carried even more than just the rivalry this year. And it was obviously a really fun game, and it was intense. It was definitely intense on the field, and obviously the crowd was going nuts the whole game, and that was
wild.
That was awesome.
Wild.
Yeah.
Did you see the clip? I'm not going to say the guy's name because I'm pretty sure, but I don't want to get the player wrong and then get sued if I say the wrong name. But did you see the clip of the Michigan player like putting Kenneth Walker in a chokehold after a play?
I did. I saw that clip, and I guess that's a good example. So I do remember seeing that.
You saw that.
Yeah,
so was there anything like that? Was anyone like jamming their finger and you're at the bottom of a pile at some point or anything like that?
I don't remember anybody doing anything to me. I remember I got hit below the belt, but it wasn't on purpose. It was just kind of a hit. I do remember that. But, nothing happened to me, but I do remember seeing that on Twitter after the game, actually.
That was pretty bad.
Yeah, it was.
Was Aiden Hutchinson talking at all? What was he like out there?
I don't really remember him talking much. I honestly don't remember too much trash talking actually happening in the game. Coach Tucker tells us that we're not supposed to talk to the other team. So
that's interesting. That's like a rule for you guys. You don't talk.
Yeah, we don't talk to the opponent or the officials, and so we talk to each other. Obviously, sometimes guys will talk to the opponents, and I'll say something to the official every once in a while too. But that's what Coach Tuck says, and that's what he stands by, and that's what we try to do on the field and carry out.
I assume you were pounding tape just as a team on Aiden Hutchinson, just in the prep up to that game. What's your take on him? Because he might be a Detroit Lion here, in a couple months. I'm a diehard Lions fan, and believe me, it is as hard as you can possibly die. What's sort of your take on him? Just having played against him, his tape. Is he the real deal? Do you think?
Yeah, I would say he's the real deal. Obviously he's a top 5 projector, top 2, 3 projected draft pick for a reason. He was very productive this year. He plays really hard, and then you got Ojabo on the other side, who I think I said that right.
Yeah, you got it.
He was right there too. So facing both those guys this year was a great challenge. It was something that our guys will obviously have in their back pocket for the rest of their career to say, I played against 2 probably top 10 draft picks. And we played Purdue's guy too, and he's like a projected top 15 draft pick too. So, it was fun playing against both of them. I don't really remember too much trash talk from either one of them. I know they both got me, at least once, and so they're both really good players. And obviously they had great years, both of them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Losing both of those guys is such a big hit to that defense. And historically, Michigan's always had some 5-star kid to come in, and sometimes we don't even see it coming. So I never count them out, but losing both those guys, that's a lot of pressure off the quarterback for them. So that game, famously, in a number of ways, but one in particular, was not without some level of controversy. And I don't even think it's arguable. It's clearly the biggest one surrounding the game involved you directly. Near the end of the first half, was it a fumble, was it not? We'll play it for the 4 people that don't remember it, and then I'm going to dig into this with you a little bit. So run that, please, Ben.
Thorne in trouble, and he goes down, loose ball in the end zone. Hutchinson there, touchdown Wolverines. Ojabo with pressure, the strip sack, touchdown.
And there, he's able to exploit it. This will be a great look of when, it's definitely out of his control at that point.
After writing down things. Right shin was down with control of the football. It is 3rd down at the 3-yard line.
To me, that was the best call overturn in college football history. I think it was brilliant, and it was obvious, but might be a little bit biased. You were the guy in the play. Was your knee down or not? I mean, come on.
I mean, I hear about the rule, and I watch. Obviously I've seen that clip before, but the rule apparently says, if your shin is down, then you're down. And when you watch the film, my shin is down, so by rule I was down.
You were down.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my standpoint on it, and that's what I'll go with.
It's funny because, and Michigan fans do this with the Ohio State spot, with Barrett was short. To me, these really close calls where fans on both sides say, "Oh, it was so obvious, it wasn't even close." it's so disingenuous. I really think you were down by rule with the shin for what you said.
Yeah.
But it was bang. It was very close. This wasn't like the time the Saints got you did have a Super Bowl because the receiver gets decapitated and they didn't call it. Like, this was not that obvious. But this was very obvious to them. You talked about Mel Tucker does not like this referee. Don't talk to the refs. We don't talk about ref stuff. We'll get to him in a minute. Jim Harbaugh came out like 12, 14 days after the game, still talking about it. He's asked about, hey, what have you heard from the Big Ten about that call, with the Payton Thorne fumble, no fumble? This was his response, and I want to get into this in a second.
Yeah, as we all expected, all saw, mistakes were made.
So you heard
That was the response. Yeah, they made a mistake.
they made a mistake on that call?
Yeah, and others.
So they said they made mistakes on other calls?
Yes.
Okay. Clear.
Can't be any more clear than that.
There were a lot of calls, I wasn't sure.
Huh?
There were a lot of calls, that's why I wasn't sure which.
Yeah, we're.
Got time for a couple more with Coach. I saw Bob's hand up.
I'm wondering, as a coach, do you believe in the concept sort of?
The film doesn't lie,
I mean, it's funny because Wojo from the Detroit News, Bob Wojnarowski, is trying to hop in there on a totally different question, and Harbaugh's jumping back into again, say, hey, film doesn't lie. This was sort of the line from him, the University of Michigan generally, the fan base was, but for that call, which was objectively blown, the Big Ten apparently admitted it, although they never came out publicly and confirmed that. But for that, Michigan wins the game. That was the only reason they lost, or the biggest reason, if not the only reason. And you won that game, and it has an asterisk on it. What's your reaction to that reaction, that sort of response? Just being the guy in the play, being the guy that actually won the game, does that bother you at all?
No, it doesn't bother me. Obviously, the result was the result. And like I said before, if that's the rule, then, then that was the call. That was the right call. And, I'll stand by that, and I won't talk too much about them or their coach and what he thinks. But the result was the result, and it did happen in the first half. So, would it have had a big impact on the game? Maybe, I don't know. But the call was made, and that was that.
And my argument was they had a 16-point lead after all that stuff happened in the second half. Yep. Maybe blowing that was a bigger factor. and again, I don't even think the call was as obvious, even if you disagree. I agree with you, but I admit I'm biased. I might be seeing it through a different prism completely. But to me, shin is down. Rule is that the shin is down. You're down. To me, it's like, hold on to the 16-point lead maybe. Like, you guys, obviously, you're on the sidelines because I was right behind the Michigan sideline. They were like, they thought they had you in the second half. They were like yucking it up, and they were talking. I mean, they may not have been talking to you on the field. They were talking on the sidelines to themselves. Oh, like they're shook. We had one of their big D linemen who say, "Oh, they're shook. They're shook." Were you guys? Was there any panic? They're down 16. Obviously, not that much. But were you thinking like, "Oh shit, this is maybe not our day"?
Not really, honestly. It was kind of just, when it was 16, I can't remember who it was, but they said, all that is, 2-score game, touchdown, 2-point, touchdown, 2-point, and it's tie game. And sure enough, that's what we did. So I remember hearing that on the sideline right before we went out for our first scoring drive. And, after you got that first touchdown, the 2-point, all of a sudden it's a 1-score game. It's like, okay, well, we got to stop here. We're going to go score again. And, sure enough, we did and got the 2-point again. And then Ken sealed the deal with his long run later in the game. So there really wasn't too much panic. I didn't feel like there was any panic on the sideline. It was kind of just get over, let's make our corrections. And obviously we need to go out and have some urgency here and go score. And, that's what we did.
Just as a quarterback, especially in that game, the intensity of it, the weather kind of sucked. It was cold and rainy. Would it be a pain in the ass to have your coach signal to you, hey, the backup quarterback's going in here like 4 different times in the game, like Michigan was doing? I mean, don't even talk about them, but just you. Wouldn't that affect your rhythm and kind of your flow of the game a little bit?
Yeah, I've never really been in that situation where I've had to do the, run in, run out type thing. When I don't think that would be something that I would really enjoy unless we're just two completely different styles. I would like to, be in the game as a quarterback usually is. He's usually in the game and in control. So, but I don't know. I've never played in that situation, so maybe it's different than what I think it is. But, obviously I would like to be out there, the whole time, and that's what I would want to do.
I just intuitively, I think that would be less than ideal, but I'm never a fan of it. I never want Michigan State to do it. People wanted there to be like this Kirk Cousins, Keith Nichol thing back in the day, like, oh, play them both. It's like, no, just pick one. I don't care which one. Just pick one. So I want to contrast the coaches here. So we played the Jim Harbaugh clip, blaming the refs, almost 2 weeks after the fact. I believe that clip was. He was talking about it 2 weeks after. Mel Tucker's response after the Purdue game. The Purdue game is one where one or two things go differently. You could have won. There were some bad calls, but I don't think Michigan State was cheated out of a win that was rightfully theirs. Right. But he was asked about some calls that were questionable. I think, whatever you think, they were objectively questionable. There were a lot of neutral people saying, I don't know about that. This was Mel Tucker's response right after that game.
And they told me what they called, and then just move on to the next play. I mean, we're not going to, blame the officials or anything like that. We'll see what they say. Maybe we need to, do a better job on those plays, and maybe not. We'll have to see.
Don't you think that's a better way to handle it? Like, just as the leader, you're a leader. You're the player leader. That's the coach leader. That's the CEO. Isn't that just a better way to handle that situation?
I believe that, like Coach said, we're not really relying on officials. Obviously, officials are supposed to do their job, and it's not like officials are out there trying to fix games. And I think that you really just got to take a look in the mirror and take a look at yourself. And obviously in that game against Purdue, we could have done a lot of things differently that would have changed the outcome of that game. And really, in our minds, the last thing we thought about was the officials. I really can't even think of any controversial calls off the top of my head. I would have to look at the game.
There was one with Jaden Reed, but we'll leave it alone because we're not going to do that.
All right,
I made fun of them for doing it 12 days later. I'm not going to do it like 6 months later.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously we watch the film and, critique ourselves, and we look at the film and look at what we could have done differently, because you want to be able to be in control of your own destiny and not have to rely on anybody else. Now, if a crew makes 20 wrong calls, and obviously that's going to affect the game, but I can't remember the last time that happened. So, we're focused on us and focused on what we need to do to win games, and then what we might have done to maybe lose a game. So that's what we're focused on.
So we talked a little bit about the transition into 2022 this season, the benefits of being the unquestioned starter. I thought Graham Couch, who has refused to appear on the show despite myriad invitations, I've sent him from many aliases, he won't do it. But I do enjoy some of Graham's work. He had an interesting quote I think really captured sort of the transition here for you as a leader. So we'll look at his quote. This is Graham Couch, Lansing State Journal. The Peach Bowl was the handoff. Kenneth Walker handing the team to Payton Thorne. If greatness is going to happen for the Spartans in the next couple of years, it's likely going to come at Payton Thorne's direction with his decisions, his arm, his moxie. Do you agree with Graham? Is this clearly Payton Thorne's team right now as we sit here?
Obviously it's a team game, and, we all have to perform together in order to win games. But oftentimes the eyes of people on the outside do fall on the quarterback. And, that's something people say all the time. And as you're growing up as a quarterback, that's what you hear. And, I've been told that they look at the head coach and the quarterback. And, that's something that you're aware of as a quarterback, and something that you take pride in also, and being the kind of head of the team, as some people might say. But, like I said, it's a team game, and it's going to take more than just me doing anything. It's going to take all of us, and it's a team effort always. And we won't win any games without a good team effort, and we'll lose games as a team as well. So, going into the future, it'll be a group effort. But I do take pride in playing this position and playing for this university and playing for this team and these coaches. So, I do take pride in the fact that what I do matters. And, I know that's a big responsibility, and I take it very seriously.
great diplomatic answer, but I'm going to chime in and just say it is your team. I mean, it's a great response. But, I mean, it's Payton Thorne's team. It's everybody's team, but just in the sense, I mean, maybe it's cliche, but in the sense of, like, things are breaking down, they're not going to run up to, like, the punter and be like, hey, you know, get us going. It's going to be on the quarterback. I mean, defensive unit is kind of a different thing, but at least with the offense, like, eyes are on you, and I think you get that. The cynics of Michigan State, of which I'm not one, painted this whole 2021 successes to Kenneth Walker mirage. Mel Tucker's overpaid because he got paid based on one magical season that was he hit the lotto, lightning in a bottle with Kenneth Walker in the transfer portal. That's the reason this season worked out. And now we're all going to see the real Mel Tucker, the real Payton Thorne, the real Michigan State, 7-win program, all that nonsense. I don't buy that. Does it piss you off a little bit? Like, do you look into this year of, and maybe you haven't even heard that, but it's prevalent. Like, do you look into this year of, like, kind of, all right, we loved Ken, great guy, one of the best players in Michigan State football history, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we are looking forward to kind of showing what we can do without him.
Yeah, you know, there is a certain sense of that. Like you said, obviously, you know, I love Ken. He's one of my best friends, and, you know, he's going to do great things at the next level. And obviously I was very fortunate to play with him. But, you know, and he would say this as well, that it wasn't, you know, just him. Obviously he had a huge role in what we did. Like you said, great player. Great guy, but, you know, Coach Tucker is the coach he is, and, you know, when people say that he's overpaid for that, you know, he's getting paid for what he's worth. And, you know, I've said this before, but I wouldn't want to play for anybody else in the country than Coach Tucker, and I believe in what he's selling. And, you know, I know that he understands that he knows what it takes to win, and he's won at the highest level. You know, he's won national championships, and, you know, he's doing all he can to bring that here to East Lansing. And so there will be a certain sort or a certain aspect of that of, you know, going out to, again, not really prove the people that are outside of our program wrong, because we're not really concerned with what those people think, because, you know, they're not in our building every day. And, you know, there's even some people in the building that don't understand quite exactly how everything's going because they're not in every meeting. And, you know, Coach Tucker has said before that the people that are outside of this meeting, when we're in a team meeting, they don't know, and they really don't. And so, you know, we're focused on this year and being as good as we can be this year, obviously with the new team. And it's not just that we lost Ken. You know, we lost some other guys too, but we also have gained, you know, a lot of new guys too. So it's a completely different team. Obviously some key pieces are still there, but, you know, we'll be looking to prove, again, ourselves right this year and, you know, see what we got as a team.
You said you wouldn't rather play for any other coach in the country than the guy you're playing for right now, Mel Tucker, and you buy in completely to what he's selling. You're all in. What is it about him that makes you say that? Can you talk a little bit about why he has been so effective in selling this to you and to other guys in the program?
You know, the first thing I think of is that he is completely invested in winning. And, you know, he wants to win desperately. And, you know, I can agree with that. And, you know, I see eye to eye with that because that's how I feel. And, you know, everything that he preaches, everything that we do as a team, the people he brings in to talk to us, it all has one common, you know, direction. And, you know, it's all good people that we hear from. And, you know, just the little sayings that he has and what he believes in and what he, you know, preaches to us. It's like, a lot of times when he says stuff, it's like I've heard that before. And, you know, for me being a coach's kid, I've heard it from my dad and my grandpa. And it's not just football stuff. It's life stuff. It's, you know, what it takes to win. And it's kind of, you know, crazy for me to hear those things and be like, that's not something that everybody knows, and that's not something that's just like said all the time. Like, I've heard that from my dad or from my grandpa, and to be able to hear that from my coach now is pretty cool for me. You know, growing up in you know, football like I did, and so, you know, just hearing that stuff and seeing, you know, the work that he puts in and the hours he puts in, and how serious he is about winning and how serious he is about, you know, taking our program to, you know, the next level and taking us to places that, you know, we've been before, but keep climbing, you know.
I would argue Mark D'Antonio is the greatest coach in Michigan State football history, and that's a program that had guys winning national titles in the 60s, you know, Duffy and Biggie Munn in the 50s. I think D'Antonio will probably have a statue outside of Spartan Stadium, and it'll be well-deserved. But I do find the difference between the two interesting in this way. D'Antonio would openly talk about, before it ever happened, Rose Bowl, win the Big Ten. Rose Bowl, win the Big Ten. And that was, to some people, crazy because Michigan State was in the doldrums for like 23 years at that point. Yeah. It seemed crazy, but he got there. But there was never like, oh, I want to get to the college football playoff, though it happened. Oh, I want to win a national title. I never heard him say that. Mel Tucker has said that multiple times in questioning about his recruiting, why he likes bigger guys. Oh, if I get to the playoff with Alabama across from me, LSU, I can't go in with these guys who are 5 inches shorter and 100 pounds lighter than the guy across from him. Yep. He openly talks about, I want to be a national title contender. We got mocked for saying, when D'Antonio said it about the Rose Bowl, winning the Big Ten, he did it multiple times in terms of winning the Big Ten. Now we're getting mocked as a program by some for saying, oh, like, how dare Michigan State even dream? How dare we even have the thought of winning a national title? Do you buy that as the ceiling? Like, can Michigan State, whether it's this year or 5 years from now when you're in the NFL making a bajillion dollars, can they get to this point with Mel Tucker where they're in a national championship game against Alabama and down 7 in the fourth quarter, like they're in the game? Do you see that as a pipe dream, or is that realistic?
No, I absolutely believe that's realistic, and I believe that that's what Coach Tucker, the image or the vision that he's selling, and guys are buying into it. And we've talked about it as players and with our other coaches that that is the end destination. It's always an ongoing thing. It never ends, but that's the goal every season. And if that's not the goal for you, then you're not playing at a place where that actually is realistic. And we believe that is a realistic goal. And even though it was years and years and years ago, we have won national championships here. And obviously college football was different back then, but just 7 years ago we were in the college football playoff and we're competing for a national title. So I believe that we play in a conference where if you win the conference, you're going to have a chance to play for a national title. So obviously that's the first step, and winning our division is really the first step. And then get into the Big Ten championship game, winning that, and then from there, you're probably going to be in the playoff. And from there, you got a chance to win a national championship. And so I believe that is something that is very realistic for Michigan State football. And I know Coach Tucker believes that. And, I don't think that that's crazy talk for anybody to say that.
For years when I was growing up, obviously I'm older than you, Clemson was like the Michigan State of the South, where it's like they'd have some good recruiting classes, some good NFL guys, but it felt like they were going 7-5, 6-6 every year. They would lose games in weird ways, the same old Spartans thing, which was predated D'Antonio. Nobody saw them rattling off this 5-6 year run, winning multiple national titles, coming close 2 other times. Like, that's sort of the barometer, I think, if you're trying to repeat that, sort of a northern version of that. But I don't think it's crazy. I really don't. No. I don't know. Do you know Odell Bredham Jr., famously of Twitter?
Yeah.
You know Odell?
Yeah,
great guy. He thinks there's going to be multiple national titles, not just one. So I know he's on board. So I'm with both you guys. I don't think, whether it happens or not, it's tough to predict anybody to win one unless you're Nick Saban. Yep. But I don't think it's crazy to insinuate that it's possible. Really quick before we get to the speed round, I want to hit NIL very quickly. Chris Solari, I don't know if you saw this. Chris Solari tweeted this picture out, shared this picture that was going around. Can we throw up the T-shirt? This is the worst T-shirt ever. I assume this was not a legitimate paid endorsement of Payton Thorne holding up a "Damn Right I'm a Spartans Fan" T-shirt with Tom Izzo coaching the football team for some reason. Like, did you see that when that came out?
I did see that, and obviously that is not a real picture. I don't know who made that or where that came from. I definitely don't think that's a real shirt. So
it's a real shirt. I ordered one. Oh yeah.
All right. Well,
let's
check it out.
Yeah, I think a 6-year-old made it overseas. It's probably a frowned upon process of how it was made. But just NIL in general, we use that kind of a funny setup. But is it weird? Like, do you get calls like to sponsor weird stuff? I know you're a good Christian. You're pretty buttoned up. Like, do you don't get any like weird promo opportunities, anything like that?
I don't really with the whole NIL thing. I don't really interact too much with people that are offering anything. I have a guy who does that for me, a marketing agent, and he deals with the NIL stuff, so I don't really have to, which is something that when this all started, it kind of came out of nowhere. But, it was something that I didn't really want to have to deal with. Obviously, you want to be a part of it and you want to, make money if it's out there. But, I didn't want to be a guy who's like searching for deals myself or like trying to create stuff and be an entrepreneur. Like my focus is football. And I believe that if I play football, the best I can at a high level, then the rest of that stuff's going to take care of itself and the money will come. So, I don't really deal too much with people, throwing crazy stuff out there. There's a couple like strange DMs here and there where it's like I don't even know what the heck you want me to do or what this is. And so usually when there's weird stuff, I'll just say, hey, can you email the email that I have in my bio of my social media? And so some stuff will go there, and then he'll present me with other stuff too, and then we'll go from there. So I don't really have to do too much of that.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I have heard stories. I'm not allowed to say the name. Someone was asked to, this wasn't even a Michigan State guy, it was a different school, to sponsor a sex toy thing. He turned it down, but I gotta think some of these requests are like,
yeah. I feel like I've heard that. I think
that was like that's the thing. I heard that like from a reliable source that was like an actual. He turned it down, but it was like a lot of money though.
Yeah,
it was like $300,000 for like a 2-year thing.
Wow.
And the kid was like kind of upper middle class family, so he didn't like really need the money.
Yeah.
But he was like really like biblical guy, devoted Catholic guy, and he's just like, I can't do that. Right. You got to think like those requests are bizarre.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a different terrain. We're all kind of navigating this strange new world.
Right.
But so let's get to the speed round. I know, like I said, you got to work out at like 4 a.m. or something. You got a long drive in the snow, so we'll get you out of here soon. So let's hit the speed round real quick, Ben. Let's run it. All right, we'll start here. One of my favorite Michigan State players in recent memory, famously, perhaps obnoxiously famously, your high school teammate, Jayden Reed. We threw the Colton Pouncey tweet up there, the fuck it, Jayden Reed down there somewhere photo. He's just going to chuck it down. And I think maybe selling you a little bit short there on that one. But a lesser quarterback than you could probably make some stuff happen with that guy. He's a special guy. And the reason your offense was so effective is because you're both good. But just tell me about Jayden Reed. What's he like as a guy, as a player? How excited are you to have him back next year? Kind of the whole thing.
Yeah, obviously I'm really excited to have him back. As most people know, I've been playing with him for a long time now. So, we have that connection. We have a real friendship. But it's awesome to play with him, and it's really a lot of fun to hang out with him. He's a great guy. He's one of those guys that everybody likes to hang out with, and he's kind of friends with everybody somehow. But I live with him too, so I get to see, all aspects of the guy. So he's a great dude, and I'm obviously, like I said, excited he's coming back. But yeah, he's a great friend of mine and really a brother of mine. So, I like throwing the ball.
It's got to feel good having like one of those guys that are just great on the 50-50 balls. In the Michigan game, it came up huge where like if you put it where it's 50-50, it's not 50-50 with that guy. It's like 95-5 for him. I mean, he somehow has a 95% hit rate on quote-unquote 50-50 balls, but he's a special guy. Please put in a good word for us. He's welcome anytime. Well, I've gotten close a couple times. We haven't gotten there yet.
We were just talking about that actually a couple nights ago.
You were talking about it.
Yeah, I think he'll make the trip out here.
He's going to do it.
He should. Yeah,
wow, we got close a couple times.
Yep.
He was texting either Hayward or Walker. I can't remember which one. They were sitting next to each other. He was texting them. Like, hey, bro, he invited me. Like, I would have come to this one. It's like, I invited him.
Yeah.
I said, Jayden, you're welcome anytime. It's like, so, yeah, we got to get Jayden here. He's one of my favorite players. I said a long time. I'd love to have him. And everybody says what you say. He's a great guy, fun guy. Everybody loves him. So, yeah, he'd be a riot. So, speaking of Michigan State teammates, I'm going to start here with this one. Your Michigan State teammate bodyguard. So, here's the setup. You're out on the town, let's pretend you're 21, you're bar hopping or whatever, and you're not looking for trouble, but someone's coming up and causing trouble with you. If you could pick one guy on your team right now, we can even bring in last year's team too, that's fine, to be next to you, to protect you, who you taking in that?
Man, there's a lot of guys that come to mind. If you're allowed to be armed, I would say Maverick Hansen. That dude's definitely, would be okay.
Is he like an A shot or something? Why is that wrong?
I don't know. The dude's got plenty of guns. I
So
know.
he's a cowboy?
I know he knows how to shoot them. So that'd be one. If it was hand-to-hand combat, I would take Ken. That dude might have the fastest hands I've ever seen.
Ken Walker?
Yes, Ken
Oh,
Walker.
really?
His dad was a boxer, and so he grew up doing some boxing stuff, and that he would knock someone out quick for sure. And then Matt Kerr comes to mind, and then Chris Bogle is a new guy now from Florida, and he's a pretty shredded guy, so I'm sure he could do some damage. So that maybe be another guy.
Ken Walker's dad looks like he could replace Ken Walker III in the backfield next year.
Yeah.
Have you seen that guy in person?
I actually haven't seen him in person, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's jacked.
His pictures, he's like lean. He looks like they're brothers or something. It's bizarre. Yeah, he's like I didn't know he was an athlete, but it makes sense. He looks like he's an athlete right now.
Yep.
But anyway, we'll move on. We talked about your dad a little bit, sort of in passing, and he's been on the periphery of some of these stories. Just being a coach's son, that's something that fans, writers talk about a lot. They love it in quarterbacks. Like, what is that like being a coach's son? Is it nice to talk to him after a game? Does he call you and say, "Hey, your footwork was messed up in the third series or whatever"? Like, what's that experience like?
Yeah, it's nice. Obviously, growing up, I had a different perspective on football than everybody else because my dad was always doing it, and so I was in the program my whole life. I was on the bus trips. I was on at the away games in the hotels, all that. And so I got to see a different side of football that, the average kid doesn't. And I got to learn football a different way than everybody else does too. And, having my dad and my grandfather was also, a longtime coach too and a legendary coach. And that was a big advantage for me growing up in terms of football and, my development and just learning the game and learning to love the game. Because without those guys, I don't know where I would be with my football career if I'd even be playing football. But it's awesome. And obviously, he's at Western Michigan now, which is really interesting.
Yeah, for week one.
Yeah,
Friday
week
night.
one. So it's nice to have him now an hour away. He's up here in Michigan, but after games in college, he's really just a dad. He's not a coach really in college. Through high school, we would always watch the film together, and he would grade my high school film out like he was a coach, and I got a whole lot of stuff from that, but. It was fun having a dad as a coach my whole life and growing up, and football was never really bad. Like he was always good with football and like wasn't like super hard on me in football. The worst one was basketball. He would get on me when we played basketball about something all the time, and my mom would have plenty of stories about that. He wasn't crazy or anything, but like the worst stories about father son bickering and all that going back and forth was definitely basketball.
You were giving
football.
it back to him a little bit?
Oh, I'd be on the court and I heard him. I would always say something back to him. I'd be so mad. But
Were you taking like deep threes like early in the shot clock, or what was the?
No, it was never really. Well, sometimes it was offense. Mostly it was defense, though, telling me to play better defense or something like that. So
yeah,
that's.
So he was riding you pretty hard then, like in a healthy way, maybe. But
oh yeah.
So your dad like is sort of a legend in the Michigan State program in his own right, just for his role and kind of your development. And that opening, which was just announced that it's Friday night, that's going to be really interesting. Maybe you guys don't talk before that one. They'll talk after, but not before. That'll be interesting. So we'll finish here. I'm curious where you land. I can't remember who the guys said, Walker and Hayward, but they had one Michigan State assistant coach who they said was by far the most intense guy. He was dropping down doing push-ups at a meeting one time. He's like in a good way. They loved him. He's like a crazy guy. Who is the Mr. Intensity of Michigan State's coaching staff? Is there one, and we'll take Mel out of it. Is there one guy on the assistant coaching staff that's just like fired up, intense, like you can see the face turn red every day? Not even mad, just like engaged, enthusiastic.
Man, I would have to think. The first guy that comes to mind is Coach Cap.
Yeah, I think they mentioned him, but he wasn't the one.
Oh yeah, he'll get after you. He'll get after the guys up front for sure. But he's also like super cool with them too, and I know they all love him. So, but during practice, if you stand by the old line, you're gonna hear him for sure. And he never stops coaching.
That's offensive line coach for the uninitiated.
Yes, and so if you ask those guys, they'd probably say him. But he has fun too. So I can't really think of a guy who's like full blown like scowl all the time and crazy intense. So I would have to say Coach Cap.
We'll give him the title. All right, man. Yeah. You did a great job. I know. Is it with the team you're working out tomorrow?
Yep, tomorrow morning. I'm not too early tomorrow. thank goodness. But Fridays are our good workout. So
yeah.
You
we want you fresh for that.
Yeah, exactly.
I know Amber's up there giving you like BCAAs and like bananas and shit, but we still got to have you like well rested on top of Amber's work with the dietary side.
Shout out to Amber. Amber's awesome.
Oh, she's a star in her own right too, right? So you do have a homework assignment. You're a college student. You got to go home and you got to wake Jaden up and say, "Hey, man, everything was cool here. Like there weren't any groupies in the hallway. It was just my 2 staffers here."
Oh, he'll come. I'll make sure he's out here.
It's been a year battle. I've been fighting with him. It's like, man, I'm relentless. So just like you guys, I'm gonna keep bugging him until I get him. I'd love to have him. But I appreciate you being here again with the workout tomorrow morning. You live far. You drove down here. You didn't have to do that, so we appreciate that. I'm really looking forward to watching you play, man. I'm a huge fan of yours. And, ever since that Colton Pouncey piece before you took a snap, I've been watching you closely, and it's really just been a pleasure watching your development, and I think we're in great hands having you here as the QB1, and it's just a privilege. It's been a privilege having you, man, honestly.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me out. You guys got an awesome setup here, and, it's been fun, the ride here at Michigan State, and, meeting everybody, and I appreciate your guys' support, too, and I know, the rest of the team does as well.
Michigan State Twitter is the best it gets, man. I mean, we are like literally we were second behind Alabama, like objectively on the engagement list in the entire country.
Yeah.
Like we're crazy, so
awesome.
In a good way. So Payton Thorne, thank you. Continued success to you. It's been a blast. Thank you to Ben Augusta, the great and powerful Oz on the other side of the curtain here, doing great work as always. He does about 96% of the work around here. I do too, and Eric Williamson on his couch in his boxers does the other 2%. But shout out to you guys. We love you guys. Shout out to the audience, Spiro Avenue Show. We are very sadly under construction, quite literally, starting Monday, the 14th, Valentine's Day. They're knocking out all my walls to fix some leak crap. So we'll be gone for probably a couple of weeks. I thought Payton Thorne was a great way to go dark. Even for a couple of weeks, it's a great way to kind of end with a bang. We'll be back soon. We're going to be doing some stuff on the side, though. But appreciate you sticking with us and making us what I think is certainly one of the top shows, hopefully, in the Detroit sports market and Michigan generally. We love you guys, and we'll catch you soon. Spiro Avenue Show, Justin Spiro. Thank you.